Greetings, heroes and Force users of all ages, and welcome back to Inside the Tauntaun, a podcast in the multiverse of fandom. As always, I'm Dino Nicandros, and I'm joined by my good friend Daniel Dawson.
Hello there.
And Alyssa sadly could not be with us this week, but she is with us in spirit. As we talk about not one, but two episodes, and two gigantic, impactful episodes at that, of Ahsoka on Disney+. This is Part 5, Shadow Warrior, directed by Dave Filoni and written by Dave Filoni. And Part 6, Far, Far Away, directed by Jennifer Getzinger and written by Dave Filoni and by... God, we're Star Wars fans.
I don't know who you are or where you came from.
I am Iron.
I thought they smelled bad. On the outside.
Smells like a new car in here.
Inside the Tauntaun, this is our opening song. Alyssa, Daniel, Dino, talking nerd stuff, come along. Inside the Tauntaun podcast, please like and subscribe.
Let's just get no general feelings. We're just going to jump into.
We have a lot to talk about.
We're going to go into Chapter 5. We're going to talk about Chapter 5, and then we're going to talk about Chapter 6.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. There's so much to talk about. Literally,
I feel like
that we're starting because it's like.
I feel like general thoughts are just a waste of time at this point.
No, at this point I'm just gonna make general noises. I'm gonna be like,
yeah.
Woo, woo, woo.
All right, yeah. Give me your general noise for.
Yowie, wowie, wee, wee, wee. I was quite elated. And honestly, I like both episodes had such a different vibe.
Yes.
And beautiful for different reasons, but I'm having
do you get the sense if you were a big Clone Wars fan, Chapter 5 was just your speed, and if you were a big Rebels fan, Chapter 6 was your speed?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I literally did not even think about that until now, but you're absolutely right. It was like we got a little Clone Wars, and then we got a little, I mean, not just a little, but a lot of Rebels.
Right.
That's so interesting. Yeah, definitely. It was, they were both beautiful. They were beautiful. I can't tell you how much, I mean, we all knew that what's his face was coming.
Hayden Christensen as Anakin.
Yeah. And he was perfect.
So, yeah, that's a good place to start because a friend of mine who's a very, very, very casual Star Wars fan who hasn't watched any of Ahsoka.
Yeah. Oh, God. I'm very curious about their opinions of the show.
Well, they still haven't. But the reason I'm bringing this person up is because they mentioned seeing Hayden Christensen in some promotional material in the last week, since the episode came out. And he was like, "Well, I kind of thought, in the prequel movies, he was kind of a bad actor. Doesn't he get a rap for being a bad actor?" And it's like, "Well, yeah, I suppose that was a common refrain, but I think
it wasn't his fault."
But I think as time has gone on, a lot of people realize perhaps it was the writing and not so much the actor. And nothing has done more for that side of the argument than Chapter 5 of Ahsoka in demonstrating that man's chops. And what even just a tinge of more believable dialogue would do for his character. And
absolutely.
That it was so awesome.
So maybe we should start with what you think he and the World Between Worlds is.
Yep. In this
and was for Ahsoka.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you've done the same, and really anyone listening has probably, if you're kind of a devout Star Wars fan, you've probably spent time on YouTube already listening to other people break down what they think happened. Was this actually Anakin? Was this a Force ghost? Mm-hmm. Or was it none of the above?
Or a combination of all the above.
Or all of the above, or none of the above. I think I fall into the category... I'm not sure I have a ton of evidence to back it up, but
I think there's like one very large piece of evidence that backs up at least one theory.
this felt a lot like the Dark Side Cave in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, totally.
Where
Totally.
not a 1-to-1 comparison, because
No.
she's not seeing her potential future, but
Right.
so to
But
speak.
kinda.
Yeah, she has options laid before. I think the whole point of the scene, as
Or at least
Anakin,
the fear of it.
right,
Like, you know, she's
life
like
life or death, and
sort of the idea that she's shut off she's shut out her feelings because she's afraid that it will lead to her being like Anakin.
right. Yeah, so this took on the form of that Dark Side Cave to me, in the sense
Yeah.
that this was a vision or an experience she needed to have to set her on the right path,
Yeah.
and to warn her of the pitfalls. In addition to that, I think it was her consciousness's way of saying, look, you got a lot of baggage, kiddo, and and you cannot be the master to Sabine. You cannot think with clarity. You cannot solve this whole problem of Thrawn if you don't figure out your own crap. And
How are you supposed to master a Padawan until you can master yourself? Can I get an
true
amen?
words. Not from me, you won't.
All right.
No. But I do think this was perhaps the Force itself intervening and saying, look, you've had a hard life and you've barely gotten any time to actually unpack what has happened to you. I mean, she was what I think this episode did so well in incorporating the Clone Wars sequences, which we'll talk about ad nauseum, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
But I think why those were so impactful is, like, have you ever, even through watching the entire animated series of Clone Wars, have you ever thought of Ahsoka in the light of being a child soldier?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, she's way too young to be experiencing these things. It's just
But I don't think I've ever thought about it in those, like, real world terms. Like, when you hear about child soldiers in the news,
yeah.
you know, it's a very disturbing image.
It's much more impactful to see, like, a real live action actual child, like, going into war, like we saw in this episode.
I think
yes.
Ahsoka was so so obviously gifted in the Force and amazing to watch in animation.
Yeah.
And her rapport with Anakin is so sweet and tender, but also combative.
Yeah.
Like, just a really great
Endearing.
dynamic. But here I felt disturbed. Like, here it was like she was. I mean, Anakin lays it out. She's like, teaching is not all it's cracked up to be, and now you got to decide, either you fight or you die, and that's it. Like, you don't get to grow up. This is
little
it.
Kid, yeah, right. And this poor little kid experiencing not just death, but, like, also the pitfalls of, like, making choices as, like, you know, she wasn't technically a general, was she? No. But
No. She rises to the rank of, like, commander at some right.
Yes, and you know, by having that power, she also has the power to make poor decisions that get people killed, and living with that guilt, it's like.
And if
for
you
a young child, my God, for anybody,
yes.
but especially for a young child, my God. So seeing it in that light, and I know we got a taste of that in the Clone Wars cartoon, but like you said, like, seeing it in real live action just really brings it home. You're like, oh, I mean, it's obviously not real. It's not based off of a true story, as much as I wish it was. It still does bring a level of realism and, you know, empathy to the character. Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned getting people killed. She references it in this episode. You know, I got my squad killed. Well, in the animated Clone Wars, very early on, she's commanding a small squadron of fighters, and she ignores the commands from the admiral, and they all get killed. And here you have this kid having to make on the fly real world decisions that affect people's lives, and it goes back to the whole what are Jedi? Are they peacekeepers or are they soldiers? And
Right.
All that to be said, to go back to what your original question was, I do think this was
all these like super pivotal moments in her.
It was a
like,
vergence in the Force that forced her to confront the things she's done and to reckon
like
with them and be okay with it at the end of the day.
Instead of Jesus take the wheel, it was like Force take the wheel, kind of in a sense.
Yeah. And I don't believe that was really Anakin. I believe it was a form of him, as many forms of him.
Sure.
But
Like you don't think
what
it was like a necessarily like conscious.
I don't
like
think that was
Anakin
his ghost.
came.
No.
Yeah, sure.
No,
And
I don't think so.
the only like, and you could explain this away somehow with. I would like to hear what your thoughts are about it. But a specific line that he says, and you probably know what I'm going to say. When she says, "I'm not going to fight you," or some, and then he says, "I've heard that before."
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's like, but how, if this is sort of the Force, like, coming to Ahsoka and through her, using her unconscious memories to, have this sort of revelation, that particular memory is something that she wouldn't be aware of, unless, unless, Luke, because, we know that they've been talking, unless Luke sat her down and was just like, let me tell you the whole story, word for word.
Well, that conversation with Anakin, I don't think her interactions with him, on the light bridge or whatever you want to call it, whatever they're standing on in the world between worlds, I don't think that's necessarily a memory. I think it's kind of the Force acting out this what's
like
the word I'm looking for? Well, yeah, almost. It's just using Anakin as a vessel, like the. I think of
this is really kind of that what came to my mind is sort of like, this is like the Star Wars version of the Ghost of Christmas Past, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, but you know what? It reminds me of that. It came to me just now from Captain Marvel. The Kree high intelligence. What was it? The Supreme Intelligence.
Sure.
That would take the form of something palatable to.
Yeah. Definitely.
Maybe there's something of that at work, but I did think for a moment. I mean, you bring up a very good point. That was a very nice touch for this version of Anakin to be acknowledging his son in a small way. But what do you think this was?
Well, I mean, I think I mostly agree with you, because I do believe that, I think I don't think we're ever going to get a full explanation, which I'm very happy about.
Thank
and
God.
I think that's great. Yes. I think they should keep it that way. If they do end up explaining it, I just hope it's explained in a really cool way.
Yes.
But the fact that there isn't, and the fact that we're having this discussion, just makes it that much more fun. Because it really could be numerous things. You like, and anybody can be happy with like, it was absolutely Anakin's Force ghost, and like that makes me happy.
If that brings you peace, then
so be it.
So be it.
But I think for me, it was. I do believe that she actually like went somewhere, because the with the hints that we were getting from Jason, Hera's son, like, and also even Hera seemingly being able to hear
something,
whether it be the lightsaber crashes like on the waves, so something was happening. It wasn't just like something that was happening. I mean, unless like maybe they were reaching out, like the Force was reaching also into her subconscious and hearing those memories.
Yeah,
because I mean, the Force, as we're learning in this show too, does lots of things that we don't even know yet. Like obviously like being able to like remember memories of by just like touching items and things like that.
Right.
So force echoes, as they're called, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, maybe they're reaching into her subconscious, like into her head, like, or maybe they're actually reaching into the world between worlds. I don't know. It's a very curious thing. I love that we don't know a lot about what the world between worlds is. I do think it's more of a subconscious thing, but also I think that because I think the Force is using the memory of Anakin, but think that like technically when we die we all become the Force, so I think that it is kind of Anakin too, because like he's part of the Force. You know what I mean? Like it's like a little bit of both, but I think it's mostly her subconscious.
It's just hard to reckon with Anakin. If we went, say we believed the idea that this was Anakin's Force ghost, or that's how his ghost appears in the world between worlds. It's a lot more physical.
Yeah,
that means Anakin was never truly redeemed. Just the back and forth he has.
well, I mean, you could explain that too, and this is why I think it was like so meticulously done, because I am curious if they did this purposefully so that you could go either way, because I like you were saying, it was sort of like this pantomime or like this sort of performance. You could say that like if it really was Anakin's Force ghost, this like back and forth that he was performing, it was like very performative for Ahsoka so that she could learn that lesson. You know what I mean? It's not like he wasn't like really like being evil and Sithy. He was like just showing her like, hey, this is look in the mirror. This is like what this is what you're afraid of. Face it. You know what I mean? Because you're afraid of becoming this. You know. But and also, oh my God, I just made me think about in the beginnings of the show, we were kind of talking about like Rosario Dawson's performance as Ahsoka and how like calm and collected and stoic, and we're just thinking, okay, yeah, well she's older, it makes sense that she would kind of, but like this, for the first time in this episode, I recognize that there's a deeper meaning to that, that she's trauma. It's literal trauma. Yeah. She has shut herself off from her, because she's this, this bubbly, fun, like, exciting person, and she really just like shut herself down, because she recognized that like all of these feelings leads to dark-sided thoughts. So she's kind of living in fear of that. So it's I think that's part of why the Force reached out to her, like, hey, remember those feelings? That was the thing that like made you. So like feel those feelings, but like also don't be a dark side person. Well, find balance, you idiot.
And that's another moment is right near the end of that sequence where it kind of really made me think of the Empire Strikes Back moment on Dagobah with Luke in the cave, and it's when she disarms Anakin.
Dagobah, it's the bigger love of the family.
Oh my God. But when she disarms Anakin and is holding the blade up to his throat, and then her eyes become inflamed and mirroring his, and for a very brief moment she is succumbed to anger, and it reminds me of Luke seeing his own face in Vader's helmet.
Totally, it's very much that.
Which it's a great callback.
It's poetry. It rhymes.
Which we'll talk about in episode 6. They literally say that.
Yes, they do.
They literally say that.
There was a lot of meta things in the 6. I was like, okay, yes, and I loved all of it too. It wasn't like
no, it wasn't too on the nose. It was like if you're listening carefully, you're like, But in this Clone Wars or the sequence of Clone Wars scenes, just Easter eggs. If you watched Clone Wars, it's likely. So she's dropped into that first battle, and she says it's one of our first missions. So we're not entirely sure which one this is. It could be Christophsis, which was the first time we ever see Anakin and Ahsoka fighting together, I believe, in the Clone Wars movie. There's another early one I was reading about was on the planet Teth, or it could be Ryloth. I think there is a moment in Ryloth because you see some of the Twi'leks in the background of one of the scenes.
Every time I think of planet Christophsis, I always think that there's like a planet Olaf's and a planet
Olafsis. Olafsis and Svenopsis.
Gross.
Gross. But then, kind of the third scene in that sequence, we find ourselves in the middle of the Siege of Mandalore, and you get a very quick look at some of Maul's Mandalorians, which are the Death Watch, which was really, really cool to see in live action. I was
exciting.
like, did you think for a split second we were going to get a little bit of Maul?
I did a little bit.
Even though Ray Park is bye-bye, but
I know.
I was like, oh, maybe a little bit.
Even like a little hint. I mean, I think that they were doing a fabulous job of showing us some really like visually stunning like scenery, but also in a like the producer hat that I put on during that time. I was like, I fully understand why they did it the way that they did it.
Choice to go dream sequence.
Yeah, dreamy with like the clouds and stuff like that. It's like a lot. Much cheaper to produce that
Look
way.
how effective just having those Phase 1 clones or seeing Rex in live action just for moments with Tamara Morrison doing the voice, of course, and it's like that's
I think Filoni did a brilliant job of designing on a dime. I know that it didn't cost a dime, but like it was he picked like the things that meant the most to be in the shot. And also I mean, I don't like the art direction of it too. Just like having, I bet the they were having a lot of fun. You could tell just like the glimpses of, I will never forget that image of Anakin like walking off into the clouds with the freaking like Darth Vader just like like flashing.
It's one of these shots. I mean, it's been said so many times over the past week, but that is one of the best shots in Star Wars.
I get chills thinking about it. It was like it's so haunting and beautiful. Yeah,
it is unbelievable. And then you kind of get a repeat similar shot when he turns into his dark side self and kicks her back into the world between worlds.
You lack conviction.
And his voice is kind of changed, and it just quick cuts to the Vader silhouette and
oof, man,
horrifying.
Man, oh man,
yeah.
It is very, very, very cool.
I think also a special nod needs to be given to the actress Ariana Greenblatt. She played young Ahsoka, and
oh my god,
eagle-eyed fans would know it's young Gamora from
yes, that's why we know her.
Yes, from Infinity War.
Right. Gosh, it feels like she would have been like, well, I guess she is more grown up, but like I feel like she
5 years ago, almost 6 years ago.
Oh my god, 6 years! Holy crap!
Yeah,
she's practically a woman by now.
My God. But yeah, she did a terrific job.
So good.
Just getting to see a younger version of Anakin with a live action Ahsoka in the same scene. I mean,
but like so complicated too, because
15
like
years on.
Because even though we are seeing a younger Ahsoka, like it's still the like consciousness of the now Ahsoka.
Yeah, she's having to play. She's having to play like, now Ahsoka in a younger body while being a young person.
Yeah, so kudos to her for like playing that like
that's a tricky. Yeah.
That's
a great
and
point.
she did well. She did very well, I thought.
As you mentioned, young Jason Syndulla, the son of Hera and Kanan, is able to hear this interaction. And
Yeah, listen.
we've already received massive hints about his force sensitivity. But to already be
We're building like
to already be gifted enough, and Jason is played by, I don't think we mentioned his name, Evan Whitten.
yes.
To be this gifted this early on in his life without
His
having received any
midichlorian
formal,
count has gotta be
it's gotta
real
be
high.
through the roof.
Jeez.
But yeah, I'm curious to see what they want to do with Jason going forward. Will someone take up his training? Either Ahsoka or somebody else, Ezra perhaps.
Oh, yeah, because we can't let him go.
Does Jason join Luke Skywalker's Jedi
and then
Academy?
he dies.
And
Oh
then
god, that'd be so sad.
Yeah, he and Grogu and everybody else get cut down.
But no, I don't know. I can't say that Filoni wouldn't let that happen because who the hell knows? Well, but that at that point though, he would have been not too old to join.
Yeah, no,
Luke's.
he'd be old.
He'd be like graduated by that point, probably, right? Yeah.
He'd be in his upper teenage, early 20s, probably.
Yeah. I still am so interested in the world building of like how they're going to explain why everyone just wasn't around for the big battle in Rise of Skywalker. But we'll see.
The ghost was there.
You're right. Right.
I mean,
allegedly.
we saw it, but we're given,
I know we saw it.
We're given 5
and whether or not
seconds
Hera was in it, it remains to be seen. But
they're going to tell us she was.
Yeah, right. That would be a very fun thing for it to kind of like turn around and we're like actually in Rise of Skywalker or something. Yeah, that'd be fun.
We have to traverse 30 years to get there, but
right.
Or 20 at this point, I guess. But
we have flash forward in Rebels before. That is a thing.
Yes, but perhaps that'll be for another time. But
another time.
But I find Jason's development to be kind of an interesting subplot to what's happening here.
Yeah,
and
it
also
does feel like
that scene...
that's a.
Sorry,
I'm wondering too if that's going to be something that will be dealt with in this season or even in this show.
Yeah, I would think if they're doing a season 2, that will get more run as far as being a.
Of course they're doing a season 2, right?
Well, I think so. It just depends on how much ground. Like I don't know. We don't know what we don't know at the end of the day, and we know.
I don't know.
We know Dave Filoni has a Star Wars film titled Heir to the Empire, so we have to assume that's going to be the culmination.
Oh, is that the like legit title?
I mean, I believe that is where it is headed. I don't remember if that was the official title.
I don't think that's been announced officially. But I mean, if it has been, I mean that's a big fucking deal. Are we googling this right now? What?
No, you're right. I don't think we've gotten the official. I think we've just assumed that Dave.
It would be weird if like. Well, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be weird because if we want to jump a little bit, just because we're on that path, because we could always go back. We have what we consider to be the big bad so far in this show, which is Thrawn. What a glorious return.
Yeah, let's actually just table this for
it.
Okay,
6. All right,
because this is going to tie into a lot of what we're talking about. I got us off on that tangent.
Yeah, this is your fault.
But I will say it was confirmed that
you can't do that to a guy who has ADHD. Okay.
Well, it is my fault, everyone. I'm sorry. The moral of the story is that they did confirm that whatever Dave Filoni's movie is a culmination of the Mandoverse story.
Right.
So you have to assume everything that's happening here is the beginning of whatever that culmination is.
Absolutely.
Or the catalyst.
We didn't get Ahsoka until, what was it, season 2 or season 3? No, season 2.
Season 2.
season 2 of Mandalorian. So, you know, seeing Mandalorian in this season would be like, it wouldn't probably make any sense, but I could easily see him in season 2, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, they're going to start having to assemble allies, and as we've talked about on previous episodes, what that means as far as recasting and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
anyway.
also it just makes so much more sense. Because, you know, at the end of season 3, we see like freaking Mando and Grogu just like sitting in the moon and sun, just really like, nothing could be better.
Yeah, waiting on a call.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I wonder what could pull them back into
Avengers
the fray.
Assemble.
Yeah.
So the
going back to episode 4.
Yes, episode 5.
Sorry, 5.
Ahsoka.
I keep on saying 4.
She chooses. She says this. She chooses life.
Yes.
She and the shot of her.
And I like the ambiguity of life and death, because it's not like a literal meaning of it. You know, at least
I guess.
Yeah, at least in my interpretation. You know,
I think
it's probably literal and figurative potentially.
I wonder too if this moment, you know, as she's laying there in the water. And I think maybe I brought this up in our last episode, that it could potentially be a situation where she's on the brink, like it could go either way.
She is actually about to embrace death,
and she could just
sink into the waves and just
pull a Padme
just die
and just not have the will to live anymore.
Yeah. Aw, sad.
And her choosing it, I do think as you said, I do think it is very figurative and spiritual in that regard. But I kind of do believe she chose to wake up.
Yeah. No, I think you're right too. I think you're right too. And in the figurative sense, it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's just like, you know, like if you're, you know, living, but you're just kind of like not living your life full-heartedly, is that really living?
Right.
It's like you might as well just, yeah. So, she chooses to live. And what's cool about it is that like directly after that, you do kind of start to see glimmers of like our old Ahsoka.
Yeah, she wakes up in her new robes. Dare I say she's Gandalf the White?
Yes.
At this point,
without her little strip on too, it's like, oh, she's naked.
Right. But she wakes up and then for the rest of the episode, she's wearing this white tunic and shawl and it's like, oh, I mean, the rebirth metaphor here is. You know,
I mean, Filoni is not shied away from his descriptions of Ahsoka like as Gandalf. Like that is totally a thing.
And he's drawn inspiration from, and we've talked a little bit about, you know, his preference for westerns and of course the Japanese samurai.
And apparently now like mythology, and he's like
mythology, ancient history. And then, yeah, I mean, the Tolkien here is, and of course it can go hand in hand with mythology, but then the religious aspects too.
Yeah.
I mean, it just depends on what your viewer.
From a different point of view.
As you were saying, it's like it's right from a certain point of view. But yeah, you do start to see glimmers of old Ahsoka as she kind of, you feel this weight has dropped off of her.
A warmth.
Yes. And then what follows, the sequence in which she hatches the idea of, you know, how do we get there? You know, they took Sabine, and then when she's,
I mean, this would be kind of like the mid-season finale, right?
And then she discovers through her, you know, through holding the broken map, she uses the Force echoes that you were mentioning, and discovers that Sabine went willingly with them.
Whoops.
But she doesn't mention that little tidbit to anybody.
Yeah, because she's afraid.
But then it hatches the plan. Oh, well, what if we catch a ride with their star whales? And
it's just so crazy, it might work.
How far I think I've come, I have to pat myself on the back. How far I've come
to like being okay with it.
to accepting space whales. Because I think the first episode they were introduced in Rebels, it wasn't the finale. It was I was kind of like animals
whales,
that
huh?
can travel at light speed.
Sure.
Like, yeah, all right. It's not the weirdest thing I've seen in the show thus far. Fine. And then by the time they come to Ezra's and the crew's rescue on Lothal, I'm like,
yes, let's go. Yeah.
that and how they contributed to such a poignant ending to Rebels. I think left a lot of Star Wars fans like, how did this show affect me in this way? It's unreal. And then to see them so beautifully rendered in live action,
Oh my God, yes.
combined with Kevin Kiner's theme for them,
Beautiful.
that whole sequence when they're lifting off the planet, and
I mean, he's been
and
doing an
weaving it-
excellent job in all
Oh
of the
my
episodes, but specifically in these 2 episodes have like
chills.
yeah, like they have
Released
invoked
released these albums. My
yeah,
God.
fuck.
What a sequence of even entering the Purgle's mouth, and then as they weave in and out of the New Republic ships, and
talk about your religious, like winks and nods.
oh yeah, right, yeah.
I mean, this is very much
Thy name
that.
is Jonah. Yeah, I had full goosebumps, and then I love it. I feel like we finally got Ahsoka back when she's sitting there in the
Yes.
cockpit with Hu Yang, and he's like, "How do you know? How do you know where we're going?" She's like, "I have no
I don't
idea.
know.
I have no
Yeah.
idea, but let's just see where it goes."
Yeah, that's
It's like, well, that could mean anything. It's like, yeah, but that's better than going nowhere.
Yeah,
You can go anywhere. It's better than going nowhere. And I was like,
it's not great.
and she's got this little
and
smile.
so that's her choice to live. That is her
Yes.
metaphorical choice to live, is to embrace the unknown, not be afraid of it, and to live.
Yeah. Well, and that's such peak Star Wars. I mean, like, you could just picture Yoda or Obi-Wan or even a mature Luke saying something like that. Like, it.
Yeah, you can't plan.
You just
for
go.
everything.
You just go where it goes and see what
Yeah.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then as they launched into hyperspace, it was just
Beautiful.
it felt like a season finale. Like
It did.
felt
It did.
It was like if that had been the season finale to another show, I would have been like, that was phenomenal.
Sick.
Um,
Yeah, and that was just our mid-season finale. My God.
Yeah, just heading into the literal unknown. We are now going places
Oh my
in
God.
Star
there's
Wars
another
that we've
frickin'
never.
Frozen reference.
I
Jeez.
know. I'm so sorry. Yeah, chapter 5 was. I mean, no wonder they put that on a big screen too.
Yeah, and I'm so sad I didn't get in to see
Yeah,
it.
man. If you were listening to this and lucky enough to do that, that's
Yeah,
really
let us
special.
know about it. You can gloat.
Yeah.
You have
You
the
can
rights
gloat.
to gloat.
So then we were so excited and eager to talk about that, but our lives were kind of all over the place the last
my
week.
God,
so
yes.
we decided to combine here. So not only were we sitting on that, then we get what they dropped on our asses and on Tuesday of this week.
Oh my God. Jeez Louise. And again, this is another thing like where we all knew this was coming. We basically, and we were even shown it in the trailer even, and it still had so much weight. It was beautifully shot. Like beautifully shot. The art of this show is so good, but like, man, are we so blessed to have these brilliant people at the helm of these amazing characters.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that we pick up this episode not with anything super dramatic, but with, again, Ahsoka speaking to Hu Yang. And
this opening I freaking love.
Yeah, well, and I love how calmly it opens, but it offers so much great insight. And
This is like such a another like Dave Filoni just like, I love Star Wars so much, and I'm going to make like all of Star Wars have some sort of, I'm going to give you morsels for every little piece. Yeah.
and if you wanted something meta,
Yes.
as you referenced,
yes.
I loved in this case where Hu Yang's like, do you want to hear a story?
Yeah.
Perhaps chapters 1, 2, and 3 of galactic history.
Yeah, right. She's like, I like chapter 1
I
the
think
best.
chapter 1's my favorite.
Oh, it
Or
was.
it's the best
was it?
story. And it's like, oh, what the... And, of course, the joke here for the layman being... perhaps this is an on-the-nose reference to the 3 trilogies of Star Wars. And
Certainly. And Dave Filoni's tends to be
his
the
reference
prequels.
for the prequels, yes.
Yes.
But, yeah.
And not to mention... What was that?
No, after you.
Well, I mean, it was just not to mention his... when she finally agrees, she's like, yeah, okay, I'd like to listen to something. Because she's like, obviously, he starts asking some really hard-hitting questions, and she's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. You just tell your stories.
Yeah.
And then he says the freaking line, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and I freaking die. I'm like, no! That's just, like, such a simple, and, it like, it's so funny because, like, written on paper, you kind of might roll your eyes and think, like, oh, that's such a cheeseball way of... But, like, it was so
But when David
beautiful.
Tennant says it...
Literally, though, I mean, the line delivery was beautiful. So
well,
beautiful.
I don't think we've really talked about his performance as Hu Yang. We never talked about it in
Not ad
animated
nauseum,
form,
but
certainly.
yes, he is really...
my God, like...
He's excellent, quite excellent.
Well, and just making this droid so much different than any other we've seen in that he's been operational for 25,000 years.
Yeah.
And is basically, I don't know,
A wise
Jedi,
sage.
as close to a Jedi Master as a droid could be.
Totally, though.
He has all the knowledge. He just can't do any
He just
of it necessarily.
can't reach out into the Force or whatever.
But,
although, that'll be another rule that they'll change someday, probably. Like,
right.
yeah, but
Wonderful.
Oh, just absolutely wonderful. But yeah, it's very cool because it's for the very first time. Well, maybe not the first time. We're brought back to George Lucas's original intention for Star Wars, because and why that is at the beginning of every Star Wars film, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Parables.
Yeah,
It's one big parable.
Big parable, but like by it was basically from the Book of the Wills. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yes. So like basically, these beings from another galaxy are like telling these old stories. These beings called the Wills are telling this story, which is Star Wars. So. And what's kind of like, this is for the first time in Star Wars that we are going to another galaxy. So like it's like we could be going to a place. Well, it's just we're seeing like the backwards version now. So like the people in the galaxy that we've come to know and love are telling a story about another galaxy far, far away. And it's like poetry. It rhymes. It's very, very, very cool. I loved that so much.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of a nice thought to think that maybe in the Jedi Temple, whether it be Hu Yang or whoever, telling stories
Hu Yang or
to
whomever,
telling stories to Padawans, beginning with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
It's just so
as
so
part
sweet.
of as being so inherent in the story. I love that.
Also, I want to have. I think that he needs like an entire like children's book series where, well, not even children's book, just books in general. I think he needs to like do audiobooks as Hu Yang. Like,
yes,
very much.
Just reading sacred Jedi texts.
Yeah, I will
Fine.
listen to the shit out of that.
So then we cut to we're at a new, as you said, a new galaxy.
Oh my God!
And the importance of that can't be overstated because we have never left this galaxy in Star Wars ever.
Physically,
and it feels like it. I don't know. We've been talking about this feeling of Star Wars feeling mystifying again, and
And mysterious.
and there's this unknown quality about it, and that I think that's been missing for some time. And
Yeah. And we're getting some very big, massive lore drops too, which is cool.
well, and there's just a kind of a background feeling of dread inherent in all of it. It's like it's just the fear of the unknown, and
Yes.
and as we come to understand, there is a great deal to fear in the unknown. So we arrive on Peridia, and we quickly discover that this is the homeworld of the original place where the kingdom of the Dathomiri, the Night Sisters,
Where they
was founded.
come from.
And
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
It is, and
the idea of them, like, you know, at one point being like, okay, let's leave this galaxy and go to another one, and they like are riding the Purgles.
yeah.
Like
Dune.
those bitches are riding
Dune.
Purgles, and they're also riding fucking Rancors. Like,
Well, Dune and Star Wars are now borrowing from each other.
Oh,
I
easily.
immediately. This episode felt there was so much. And maybe because Dune is such a the recent Dune film was in the back of my mind, and
yeah, honestly, it wasn't in the back of my mind, but now that you say that, like,
the Night Sisters remind me of the Bene Gesserit.
oh, very much so. But even in the art design of this,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
with a lot of the those like beautiful, like very geometric kind of everything was just like framed in such a way that like each frame of this like episode could have been put up on the wall. Like it was very picturesque without, you know.
Well, and
better
we were
words to
talking
say.
just a few minutes ago about all of the influences Dave Filoni pulls from, and you could go any direction really with these mothers, you know, the great
Well, we
mothers.
remember how we were talking about the title of the episode. I think it was episode 2, maybe episode 2 or 3. The Toil and Trouble, Boil and Bubble. What was it? One of those two.
Toil and Trouble.
You Toil and Trouble. This is a reference to the 3 witches from Macbeth.
No, I can't say that.
You can't say
We're in a
that.
theater.
Turn around, spit. But yeah, it was the teaser for this.
Well, yes, the 3 witches, or if Greek mythology is more your speed, the Fates.
Yes. Yep, the Fates. I mean, they even talked about like the thread of fate or whatever. That is exactly what the Fates.
Well,
talk about.
and we did get a pretty concrete answer for. We had a question. I think it was in episode 3 of like who, you know, Morgan says Thrawn is reaching out to me over time and space. He was using the witches.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. He's using them as like an actual like cell phone.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Thrawn calling from.
Hello. They're charging me by the
Dathomiri-
minute. They're charging me by the minute. Let's go. Give you my coordinates.
Dathomiri Mobile.
Yeah. God,
Gross.
terrible reception. But
Yeah, it's just awful, and it keeps echoing. I keep hearing all of these voices over and over again. Hello, hello, hello.
the witches are
Cool.
like I
Really,
love new Star
really
Wars.
cool.
I love and the idea of Night Sisters aren't new, but in live action they are, and they don't disappoint.
They did not, and we barely gotten a whisper of what they can do.
Yeah.
They could bring back people from the freaking dead.
Necromancy, which we'll talk about, but they all 3 of them have
Balls.
what we call that. Yes, they all have balls. What we call that, that star map, but here they're using it as it can be used as a restraining device. It can be used as a weapon, seemingly. Are they seeing stones as well? I mean, probably.
Yeah.
How they communicate.
Well, okay, now it's very interesting that you bring this up, because I don't think I really even thought about it too. Because when we get to there, they sort of arrive on what looks like a more pristine version of the little star map Stonehenge-y
the
looking
henge.
thing.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think we were on Cetos. And I believe that we were told by Elsbeth that that it was not created by the Dothmiri. It was created. It was created by some other ancient civilization. So, yeah, it's interesting that there's also one on Dothmiri, and like that. Assumedly, that one was also built by whatever this ancient civilization is. Maybe the because I think that they said I think that Elsbeth also said that they were one of the first, but not the first. One of the first people to use to ride.
I don't
the
remember.
Purgles.
She might have said the first.
The first? Okay, well because that's a big deal. I was either one of the first or the first.
I think she said the first.
Well, because my thought is that like that because obviously this other civilization learned how to do it too.
Yes.
Because they've gone back and forth and were building temples on both galaxies.
Speaking of the temples,
yes,
and the inspiration Filoni was drawing from, I haven't looked to see if other people have picked up on this.
That conclusion.
Did that temple built into that cliff look like Minas Tirith to you?
Yes, immediately. Or I was thinking Two Towers, and because they're showing all these little towers in the distance
with its kind of circular bottom, and then it kind of narrows as it gets to the top, and then the cliff kind of juts out. And I was like, oh, that's the City of Kings.
Absolutely. I also like. I kind of giggled at one point because when Thrawn's giant ship lands on top of it, it kind of looks like a
I know, Daniel. No.
It looked like a
We're moving on. We're moving on.
But I mean, I'm not saying that that's what Filoni was going for, but you could say
he wasn't
that
going
like
for that.
The Dothmiri and like Thrawn are like, doing the thing.
No, you're
and
like,
they're gonna give birth to a new.
You're one of those kids in English class who read into things that just have no business being read into.
Listen. No. They're giving birth to a new empire. So you know what I mean? Like
Did you get that on TikTok? Be honest.
No, that's my own interpretation because I literally laughed out loud. I was like,
"Of course you
that's
did.
a dick and balls." Ha! And I was like, "Okay, wait, let's think about this a little more deep." I don't know. I think there's some subliminal messages going on.
There's not. Dave Filoni is not a creep.
You don't know that.
No, I don't know that. Anybody could be, I suppose, but I don't suspect.
Disney has been doing this for years.
Anyway, but
Anyways.
you did mention Thrawn's arrival, and
yes.
When I say that, I audibly went, "Oh my god!"
Oh my god!
Like that. Oh my god!
It shouldn't go. I mean, like, you can't talk about this moment and not talk about the fucking music because it was probably the first time in Star Wars we've ever heard an organ played.
Organ, yes,
and the
in live action Star Wars
chills that I got, like it's
yeah,
such a
it was Kevin Kiner's theme for Thrawn in the animated, but we've never seen it in live action.
Yes. Oh, and it's just wonderful.
And then seeing this dilapidated the Chimera, which everyone will remember, this was the ship Thrawn
was a little worse for wear.
Yes, this was the command ship that Thrawn was using during Rebels, and then when the Purgles show up, it takes the Chimera and launches here, supposedly.
Warped.
And it's looking a little worse for the wear, but it also, it's been patched up somewhat. You see tinges
with
of
like
kind of
gold
patching, and then on the bottom, all of what are conceivably Night Sister markings on the bottom of it.
Sure.
And but yeah, as it lowers down and we're in the hangar bay, we all of a sudden see all these stormtroopers. Assuming most everybody, in a hyperspace voyage like that where the sides have been ripped out and all the wind, a lot of people probably died.
Oh, certainly. And he talked about how his like numbers have dwindled. Like he's
But nevertheless, we get this look at this large battalion of stormtroopers, and they're all chanting Thrawn's name, which is very non-stormtrooper behavior.
Yeah, so we've kind of like I think they've been away for what has it been like 9 or some 10 years?
10 years.
So there's now like this sort of like cult of Thrawn.
So we get a good look at a lot of them and they are looking real worse for the wear.
Oh yeah,
dirty,
which
run
is
down,
very fun world.
But
building.
the coolest art direction of all was it's a technique called kitsugi, which we've seen previously in The Rise of Skywalker. It's what Kylo Ren did to repair his helmet, where he singed it together with the red sealant. And in Japanese culture,
red super glue.
Yes, a red gorilla glue. In Japanese culture, kitsugi is the art form of reforging something and then making it into a piece of art.
Yeah,
something that was once broken, and it's gorgeous. And that's seemingly what's happened with all of their armor. They've got very patchwork,
and quite often they use gold
yeah.
too, which is
fascinating. And the most fascinating of all, we see one stormtrooper turn around, and he's got a literal golden face plate. Which, again, if you're drawing from mythology or you're drawing from ancient history, honestly, this looks like a Roman funeral mask.
Totally, but and also very very Japanese inspired too.
Yeah, very Japanese inspired and fascinating. But then we get this goosebump-inducing shot of
Dino.
Thrawn.
Literally just came just now.
Yeah, I mean,
Dino just came.
Of
this episode really was a Dino wet dream for sure.
It was.
Yeah.
Thrawn walking down the aisle in between all of these stormtroopers, and then
yeah,
Lars
it was like
Mikkelsen.
his wedding processional.
Yeah,
you know?
And Lars Mikkelsen opens his mouth, and it's the same as it ever was, and it's like hearing it for the first time. And like,
and what's wonderful is that every single word that comes out of his mouth. Just every little thing has weight. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
He's just so calculated with his words. He doesn't waste any time. You know?
No, he has an economy of speech and thought, and
he knows everything.
What was surreal?
And there's a thirst for knowledge. So he
yes.
wants to know everything.
Well, and there was something surreal about hearing that voice come out of a live action mouth,
a person,
and a person, and Lars Mikkelsen was the perfect voice choice for Thrawn, and we said it at the time, but he was the perfect actor, period, to play. I mean, he's 6'4", he's imposing, and all.
You know, it's interesting. I'm really glad you brought up his physical appearance because, like, just like everybody else on this ship, like. He's
his uniform
also
has
showing
some snags, and
they left like some like if you were watching on a big screen, like his like costume is quite beat
frayed
up
around the neck, and
he's also like maybe not as skinny as he used to be too. So he's like he's gained a few pounds on Dothmiri. He's
they've been through it, and
they've been through it, and he's not afraid to admit that.
And I wonder, this is a good segue kind of into where we find Thrawn, what we knew of Thrawn and where we find him.
Mm-hmm.
He was always, he was ruthless, certainly, but not necessarily cruel all of the time, like at least in comparison to some of his contemporaries in the Empire, Vader being the best example.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also he was about efficiency, and that's what
Yes.
actually makes him scary. Is the
Just
really
like
scary
one of the 4 keys at Disney. Sorry, 5 keys.
But what's so scary about people who are efficient is they take emotion out of everything. So
yes.
So they'll do
Complete lack of empathy.
it's a lack of empathy, but at the same time, he had such a notable respect for. I say respect. I choose that word carefully, but a respect for all, art and culture as a means of understanding his enemies. And
Yes.
But also,
He's the greatest. Well, I mean, probably second to the Emperor, like, is the greatest chess player ever in the Star Wars universe.
Well, yeah, and I think he was always regarded, if you've read any of the Thrawn novels by Timothy Zahn, as kind of a very scary Sherlock Holmes. That's that's what he's always been. But I wonder, after 10 years in exile, I don't think Thrawn was ever one for. I think he'd been more likely to not rely on mysticism, and I think he relied on his wits and outmaneuvering people. And he only had to deal with a couple of Jedi, in Rebels, but by and large, at that time, he wasn't having to deal with dark magic and
dark side and stuff. Well, I mean, that's the thing too, is that, like, I think that through his experience, he recognized the faults and, like, vulnerabilities and weakness of, like, all this, like, because he considered the Jedi to be faulty, and like their mysticism and religion was just, like, something that got in the way, and it wasn't very helpful. And it,
but like, I wonder if during his exile, and we talked about this perhaps having devolved into a cult of sorts.
Yeah.
Where to the point where the Night Sisters need him. Like this is a very symbiotic relationship now.
Totally.
And the reverence they show him. Mm-hmm. It's like I wonder if we're going to see a Thrawn now that when we first met him, and again, if you've read the books, it really fleshes this out, was somebody who needed the Empire to eventually help his people, and that's why he signed on to serve under Palpatine's military. Because he thought, if I do my time here, I can then use their resources to save my people from extra galactic threats. But I wonder now that he's just been down on his luck, when he returns to the galaxy, if it's going to be a far more power-hungry Thrawn than he ever was before. Because there was always, he was a means to an end. Like his ruthlessness was a means to an end. But now it's like, I'm coming for payback. Like, this is revenge Thrawn.
Well, yeah, and he's got to work, like, hard and fast.
Yes.
Because he's coming back with dwindling numbers. That being said, if we're going to talk about,
let's talk about the Stormtroopers.
Okay. Yes.
That's where I think you're going. So
wait, I can't remember what my point was before, though, that I was going to make.
About Thrawn?
Well, yeah, I think I was just like, let's table that, but I don't remember what the tabling was. I should have written it down.
Oh, well, no, we were getting into the discussion about Heir of the Empire, Filoni's movie, and then how that could it have been his end game?
Yeah. No, I was talking about, like, I think it was about the big bad and whether or not, whether or not he is the big bad, whether there is something even above him.
Correct.
That might be a little more spooky.
Yes.
But talking about Thrawn and his army that he's going back with, he's talked about his dwindling numbers. That's a problem. And he's a smart, calculating man, so he knows that he needs numbers. Where is he going to get it from? He needs the help, and he's already even said that he's used the dark magic of the
Night Sisters.
Of the Night Sisters before. He says, I need your help again. You know what I mean? Again. Now you could say that perhaps he perhaps he used their powers to reach out to his contact in the other galaxy, which is probably, absolutely true. But you could also say, because he even mentioned that he knows that they're very capable of necromancy and bringing people back from the dead. I think that he's quite literally bringing back an army of the dead.
Have we already seen it?
Yeah, right.
Are we looking at it?
Yeah, correct. I think that these like Thrawn, like all these people could literally be an army of dead soldiers.
They sound a lot like Marok.
Totally,
Did you-
yes.
So his captain with the gold faceplate, his name's Enoch. We come to learn, but when he speaks, I'm like, and
that's a little off.
And they all walk fairly normally, but there's this kind of unbalanced quality to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the red sashing that goes through their armor, I'm like,
yeah,
maybe the first time he asked for their help was to bring his, at least part of his dead crew back to life.
This is literally my thoughts. Yes, correct. Yeah, and that's
Scary.
That's about as scary as it gets for Star Wars. We haven't gotten that zombie army.
The point I was making about Thrawn, it's like that would never have been in his playbook before, because he's a very by the book military guy. Like, I'm just going to beat you with cold hard numbers, and that's it.
Well, yeah, and I think that in a world where he had an infinite amount of resources,
yes,
he probably wouldn't choose that.
Yeah.
But like he is in a place where he is using the resources that he got.
Yes, and I know we're jumping a little bit over this.
Because what is he going to do? Is he going to use those like cute little turtle people?
But I know we're just kind of jumping to the Thrawn scenes of this episode, but I think it's worth talking about at this moment. He mentions not long after we're reintroduced to him that per his agreement, he mentions an agreement with the Night Sisters that they were going to load up the catacombs of the ship. Now,
I mean, what
originally
other
thought was like,
hints do you need?
So I originally thought, look, is that them supplying more troops?
Bodies.
Or are these the bodies of all of their ancestors and fallen Dathomiri?
Yes, and.
That he's like, okay, they can come too. And
sure, they can come too.
You can repopulate the galaxy with your witches.
Literally that, yes. It's very much a handshake. I 100%.
How scary is that? Because as we know as we know in our galaxy, and the Clone Wars and the Rebels touched on a little bit, the Dathomiri were wiped out. The Night Sisters were wiped out, more or less. Perfect way to repopulate is just bring those old ancestors back.
Now the thing is that if I understand and remember correctly, like, when they're bringing these, when they're bringing their dead loved ones back from the dead, it's not like they're like the same people.
No,
they're not.
They're very crude.
Yeah, it's kind of like a husk of a person that like does your bidding.
Yeah.
It's like if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons before, it's very much like, conjuring like a zombie. It's you and interestingly enough, I also wonder if the people who are controlling these zombies, like that being these the Night Mother. Wait, what's her the Mary Mother Night Mother? What's her name?
Is it the Great Mothers?
The Great Mothers?
Or Night Mothers?
Grandmother Willow?
Is it the Night Mothers?
Night Mothers? We'll call them, yeah.
Well, keep making your point. And
yeah. I wonder if like, for instance, like the one who conjures them in the first place, if they have like ultimate control, and like if they are taken down, if it sort of like, destroys or, it like untethers. Well, it could be one of two things.
The Great Mothers. The Great Mothers.
The Great Mothers.
Yes.
They are great. They really are.
Wonderful.
Never better. But yeah, whether or not it would be like untethering the spawns of, or would it be like just completely like destroying them and making them be dead again? I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I am curious, like what Dave Filoni's rules for necromancy is in this universe, because we I think in other universes like Dungeons and Dragons, for instance, we are kind of given some rules of how it normally works. So I'm trying to leave my baggage at the door and not have that meta knowledge and just go with the flow and see what happens. But
I've been thinking about it, because Thrawn, as you mentioned, mentions the fact their numbers are dwindling.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen some people online make the suggestion that, okay, these stormtroopers aren't dead.
Sure.
That for their numbers to dwindle, that means a lack of supplies is killing them off.
Right.
Well, what I think he meant by numbers dwindling is that there was live crew. I mean, not everybody aboard that Star Destroyer died, because Thrawn would have as well. But because there's a lack of on these Star Destroyers, they have thousands and thousands of crew members. I mean, they're gigantic, and
Right.
especially like on the bridge, you have officers. I mean, there are more officers than stormtroopers. We don't see any of those people in this scene.
Yeah,
These
right.
are all. So I think that's what he meant. Like the crew died.
Yeah.
Like all of his junior officers, like everybody died.
Yeah.
And what's left are just husks of stormtroopers, and I think that's what's happening here, and it's unnerving.
Spooky.
Well, and
spooky.
also, so we've been talking about again inspiration. So his captain's name is Enoch.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 4 mentions. I did a little biblical study here.
Yep.
So there's 4 mentions. There's 4 different Enochs in the Bible.
Yeah.
But one of them, I would say the most famous one, well, maybe not the, that's subjective, but I will say the most notable one is one of 2 beings in the Bible who didn't, quote unquote, die. They were taken by God
right.
to escape death.
Right. Take that
Do with
for
that-
what you will. Because I mean, if that's
Whatever's
not a little
going
on the
on
nose,
there, right?
I mean, we'll see how on the nose it is.
Right.
But
Right.
that is very We're getting some very obvious. I mean, like the wolf references and the
Yes.
and this and that. He's being very purposeful, very very purposeful.
We also in this first scene with Thrawn, we learned something about Balin,
right.
General Balin Skull.
And I fucking love that Thrawn brings it up because it's so on his,
General
it's so
Balin
his character.
Skull.
Yeah, he's like, I know you.
Of
You
the
know,
Jedi
like,
Order.
because he knows everything. He remembers everything, guys.
And then
memory is
we
so good.
we get a great little reminders. He's like, well, I left the Jedi Order, and he said you would not be the first.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I've heard that. I've heard it all before.
And that ties in to near the end of the episode where Thrawn says, "Give me everything you have on Ahsoka Tano. I want to know who her master is."
Yeah.
And he already knows Anakin is Vader, but when he finds out she's the apprentice, how does he use that against her?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep.
And just
But it is cool though to see like it's already a little crack in his plan because he's like, that was like an unknown thread,
yes,
that is like creeping into his plan. So he's already trying to move his pieces to get back into his, because he knows that is
she's a
an
real
absolute
problem.
threat.
Yeah, and he admonishes Morgan. He's like, I thought it was beyond you to
Ooh, I love
underestimate a
that
Jedi.
scene.
Yeah,
Yeah, you underestimated him, you little bitch.
and I want to, and he does his normal Thrawn thing. He's like, yeah, I want to know everything about her, everything you got, and if any of those damn Purgles come anywhere near this planet,
blow him out of the sky.
destroy
I
them
also
with
really
prejudice.
like I fucking love also like a fun twist that he's just like that he's also using these mercenary Jedi as like pawns, and they're expendable pawns. Like he's ready to just let them fucking die.
Well, yeah,
If that's not going to bite him in the ass in the end, I don't know.
well,
but-
so yeah, that's actually a great segue. I guess we'll stick with the baddies first because I think they
Yeah.
kind of offer the most interesting.
this was a
tidbits in
baddie
this
episode for
Yeah.
sure.
But you're already seeing potential cracks in this unholy alliance, which we've
Yep.
talked about, because they all have different motivations and varying degrees of,
as old as Tom.
I don't know, varying degrees of how evil they are. Like
Yeah,
the motivation kind of dictates that. But
totally.
but he tells Morgan, was he not also a Jedi? So we have to regard him as flawed.
Yeah,
That's what he
right.
says. And then that's the point you made about like the same, you can leave your mercenaries here for all I care. Is less Force users, the better, I think. Is his
Yeah, right. Because it's like
opinion.
having them around just means that they're going to probably cause issues later on.
But as interesting as all of the Thrawn stuff
And
was,
he's not wrong, too, because you could
No.
just already see it, like, percolating. You know what I mean?
well, that's what I was going to say. The most interesting, in my opinion, I thought the most interesting parts of this episode were Baylan and Shin.
It just literally it pains me every single episode because the deeper we get in with Baylan,
Ray Stevenson, man,
fuck, he's just I bring him
He-
back
he
to life.
steals-
He's so good.
he steals every scene he's in.
He's so good. He's so good. Yeah, it's-
He reminds me so much of Qui-Gon,
yeah,
which is
in a way.
which is not a great comparison for Qui-Gon's sake, but
well,
also there's.
because
this
Qui-Gon
isn't-
could have easily gone a different way too.
But
like,
this
it
isn't.
had-
This also isn't a Sith dynamic. Like he's not torturing his apprentice or goading her to reach out in anger and kill him. There's actually quite a very nurturing relationship with Shin, I think, and he's shielded her from. Because he gives her knowledge in this episode that he's never told her about before, the burning of the temple and
right.
how he once believed in the idea of the Jedi, but the truth of it was something else entirely. And we've heard that refrain before, but
Certainly.
but you start to.
This is also a very meta conversation that he was having with her too about like, oh god, the same story over and over and over again. You know what I mean?
How
like,
we kind of roll our eyes at. It's all poetry. Star Wars is poetry. It rhymes, but he's making a point here that's well taken. It's like,
yeah.
It was always inevitable. The Jedi were always going to be wiped out. There was going to be some grand power that swept in, and we're going to do it all again. And we now discover Baylan's endgame is not sitting at the right hand of Thrawn, and he's like, that kind of power is fleeting. I want to break the wheel, basically.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And what does that mean?
Yes, which is very exciting. So I'm curious if you have any theories because I kind of have a theory about it.
So I'm going to go back. This is why I wanted to wait for your great point that you were making earlier in the episode about, is there something above Thrawn in terms of being the great evil?
Yes.
So there's something on this planet or in this galaxy.
Whether or not it's evil, that is up to interpretation.
In and of itself, is it evil? I don't know.
Yeah, and whether or not it could be used for evil.
But is there a power or a force or beings which exist in this galaxy that are what the Night Sisters are in a hurry to leave?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's in a hurry to leave, and that's where the symbiotic relationship comes in. Thrawn can get us out of here.
Yeah.
What are they running from?
Yes.
And could it also be the thing that Thrawn's people, why he even sought the Empire to begin with, as a defense of his people against whatever he knows is out there?
Sure.
Could it be Baylan also knows there's something out there that I can use to wipe the board clean? No more rebels, no more Empire, no more Jedi, no more Sith.
Please, no more Sith. But yeah, so there are a few things it could be, but it sounds like you're heading towards a point.
Well, I'll tell you what I think it is, because
please.
Again, it would be helpful for people to have read some of the Thrawn books.
Certainly.
But I don't think it'll be necessary when they introduce this. I think there's a species of life form, and in the books they're called the Grisks.
Oh, okay, I'm so glad this is completely different than what I was thinking you were going. So please.
Grysks, Grisk.
Okay.
And they're extraterrestrial, extragalactic race.
Intergalactic.
That have the tendencies of swallowing civilizations, and they at one point and may still be threatening Thrawn's people, the Chiss.
Mm-hmm.
And this threat has been percolating out beyond the borders of our known galaxy. And could it be that the Night Sisters are trying to get away from this species? And could it be that Balin is reaching out as an envoy of like, I could use this species that knows nothing of our galaxy, has no interest in our politics, in our nonsense, to reshape the galaxy as we know it. I don't know. That was.
I think that's. I mean, it's very similar thought, and the only reason why I thought about it is because I had no idea, because I didn't play old Knights of the Republic, but there was like a being that they introduced in that game, and the reason why I didn't know about it, and I looked it up, is because of our watch of Andor. And our good buddy, what's his face? Oh God, our character, he brought it up about, he was showing the little crystal that was like worth something. He's like, give him this, if you want to trade. And it was about the rebellion. They were like rebelling against this race of beings, like from way back when, because they went around doing the same kind of thing, very much kind of like the Independence Day aliens, where they like take all the resources, use the people as slaves, and then like completely obliterate the planet and move on, kind of thing. And they were called, I can't remember because my brain is crazy.
Were these from Legends?
No, this is from the Knights of the Old Republic video game.
Oh,
and we even had oh God, they were I'm looking it up right now. I bet you the people out there are literally screaming at me.
I'm trying to remember.
I'm gonna look up, like, because I think I can get the. Oh, the Rakatan.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes,
the Rakatan from Rakata. So, I'm not saying it's that, but like, I know that they randomly dropped that little Easter egg in Andor. That felt kind of random. So I mean, it could be that.
Yes. So in recent Thrawn story, I think,
and they were also very ultra tech like forward, like they were like more advanced than anybody at that time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's just as plausible, and they drop that little nugget for a reason. The reason I think, and I
have another theory too, potentially.
I don't think mine is any more likely than yours, to be clear.
Yeah,
The reason I think the reason I thought of the Grisks was because
it's so involved with the Chiss, and that makes all the sense.
Involved with the Chiss, and then one of the novels, Thrawn literally tells Vader there is an invasion coming.
Ooh, that's a spooky thought.
I have arrived at just the right time to ready us for it. And both the Emperor and Vader have kind of been like, both the Emperor and Vader were like, yeah, okay, just like there are bigger problems at the moment.
Sure, Jan.
But the Grisks, they have like mind control abilities.
Ooh.
And like enslavement.
Ooh.
And the reason that, if Balin were privy to a species like that, to me, if like you're trying to break the wheel, like unpacking what like breaking the wheel means, or stopping the cycle, I think is how he put it.
Sure.
But I mean, brainwashing is a good way to go. Just like literally clean the slate.
Yeah, that would be a pretty easy way, potentially.
I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds like a game-breaking type of enemy.
And it's a threat. It's a threat we haven't seen in Star Wars, because we've done the whole, as Balin says in this episode, we've done the whole Empire versus Rebels, and we do it. He doesn't know it yet, but we're going to do it again in the sequels.
But now, I guess in that regard, like, so if we go to like Balin's motivation, like unleashing that upon the galaxy, like what does that do for him, and how does that give him power? Like why? Like because these both the Catan or and the greasers. What are they called?
The Grisks.
The Grisks. Sorry, the Grisks.
The greasers.
the
Dirty
greasers and the
greasers.
Jets. They don't sound like beings that would share power well.
No, maybe not. But maybe that's the fool's errand here. I mean, at the end of the day, I think Balin is arrogant and thinking.
And obviously, well, I can't say obviously because they didn't know he. I mean, sadly, that the actor would have passed away. But I mean, like, he assumedly is going to meet a tragic end.
Yeah.
Of some sort.
Well, and I wonder. Yeah, no, I mean that point is well taken. I mean, unless they recast Balin,
which is possible.
It is possible, I suppose,
but not probable.
I think he feels like he's super important to whatever's going on. So I think they had every intention of him sticking around.
Man.
But to answer your question about like what would he get from that, I think there's kind of a dramatic irony here in that he talks about the arrogance of the Jedi and how short-sighted they were. But he also has this savior complex.
Right. Like, only I can fix it.
Anybody who says only I can do it, those people in history tend to be the worst people. So
yes.
It's only I have the answers.
Okay, so you want to hear my other theory?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So in Rebels or Clone Wars? Oh shoot. It's Clone Wars. It's Clone Wars, I'm pretty sure. We get introduced to the wellspring of life.
Yes.
And we have which is basically on this like force planet that like Yoda goes to.
Yes.
And like meets these this like force priestesses. And it's more or less kind of like the beginnings of life itself in the galaxy sort of started here, if I understood it right. It's been a while since I've watched that arc, but I am curious whether or not like whatever these beings are, travel from galaxy to galaxy, like planting the force seed, if as it were, and kind of starting life itself,
Yeah.
And whether or not maybe that is what Balin is searching for, like
sure.
the power to like create and destroy life or whatever, that would be interesting.
Yeah, possibly. And why does that power, I wonder, scare the Night Sister? Like, is the thing Balin's seeking truly the thing the Night Sisters are running from? And I think they allude to that effect, that
because
they're in a hurry to get out of here.
If this is where the Darth Miri are originally from, it makes me feel like, maybe they didn't pick this planet. Maybe they are like actually indigenous. So like, I just am trying to figure out why this planet is so important. It's obviously important to the Purgles. We don't understand why that is either.
Well, they go there to die. Like,
yes, which also is so creepy.
What is that all about? Yeah.
There was a reason for that. I know Dave Filoni could just leave that a mystery for us, which would also be totally fine. But I'm pretty sure he's got a good idea as to why the Purgles pick this planet to come to die at. You know what I mean? Like, and so like we have the wellspring of life. Maybe this is the wellspring of death. Boo!
Yeah. Well, yeah. I forget we're also a podcast. I have my thinking face on right now. If you can't.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that's my like wackadoo crazy out there theory, but
Well, no, it's no crazier than anything I just said.
Yeah,
Yeah. What I also don't want to go full WandaVision here and just.
I know.
But I do feel like for the first time though, in a long time with Star Wars, that's all fair game. Like, none of that is crazy because they've dropped, you have to read closely, and I do literally mean read. Like some of this stuff was dropped in books. Like they're dropping crumbs for things that I think they've given themselves license to go down any of these avenues, and I think they're all
thrilling.
something we haven't seen.
Yeah, I mean,
And
truly,
fine.
I
don't care
like,
what it is. Fine.
Yeah, I mean, I give it to me. I'm so ready, and it sounds so intriguing. They're at the precipice of. I mean, there's a very like, even just the story that we know is happening, like where Thrawn is coming back and he's going to be like the evil villain. That by itself, as its own thing,
That was enough.
That's enough. I am so excited for that. I'm thrilled, and I cannot wait to see that go down. Is there something else creeping up in the background? Yes, I think that there's been more than hints to that. Whether or not that's going to be like going to continue for the length of this entire series and beyond, that remains to be seen. But...
So actually, that's actually a good point to make. So this threat, whatever it is, it feels big.
Yeah.
Maybe we're making it bigger than it should be, but they're making it feel real
thick.
Big.
Yeah. Something that would threaten Thrawn and literally the entire
entire galaxy. Well, we already have a sequel trilogy in which Palpatine returns and kind of ends the Skywalker story. And we are building, the Mandoverse is building the blocks to those events. Whatever happens here, don't you think it needs to, if it is gigantic, to not be referenced at all by the time the sequel trilogy comes around?
That's my thing.
Like what?
How?
Or are they setting something up that kind of gets tabled until after?
You hit another point that I definitely had thought about, because is there a way for them to quite literally disappear for a section of time, and then like Rey and the descendants of like the sequel trilogy need to help deal with this threat?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and my thought there, and I'm kind of coming up with this in real time, is like whatever they're setting up, whatever Baylan is looking for out there, perhaps that gets tabled. Thrawn returns to the galaxy. The Night Sisters escape. Whatever it is, and we get the kind of the culmination of the battle between Thrawn and everybody.
Yeah.
Still, the galaxy is unaware of whatever's coming, and
like Thrawn is a fully grown plant, like, and we're getting just like a little seed planting.
There's a seedling
Baylan
out there of something. If you're looking for a post First Order, post Empire threat, maybe that's what's being introduced very quietly now.
Yeah, and also like Jason, the character of Jason is also a seed, I think. Yeah, potentially. Yes.
Well, and including Ezra again. And speaking of which,
I think
Ezra
that's
has
a great
been
place
living
to end. Yeah,
Ezra has been living among the Ninja Turtles.
I think about the Ninja Crabs.
The Ninja Crabs,
or whatever they are. Freaking so cute, and so random. I did not know that was going to be the way that they were going to do it. But I mean, why not?
They're like turtle Jawas, and then we kind of get a type of like Tusken Raider adjacent, these mercenaries that live on this planet that attack Sabine.
Oh, right, yes. Which also are very like samurai infused.
Yeah.
Like,
but again, I just love seeing new stuff. And,
very cool.
Something about this planet. Yeah, it feels mystical, also feels mythological, and then feels very medieval as well. And there's something about like the lone knight traveling down a path and being attacked by bandits, and that's very Dark Ages.
Yeah, it's also very desolate. Like it's just like nothing but death.
I mean, it is a whale graveyard.
Yeah, and, but for somehow from like it was the home planet of the Dothmir. Like I mean, like. Were they the ones that completely used up all the resources and made it look like a desolate wasteland?
Although it looks a lot like Dathomir does, and
it does. You're right, and it's like this is like the place that like they thrive. They love places that
darkness.
Are spooky.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I am curious. the Force users, like they get the Force from the wellspring of life, and maybe the Dothmiri get their dark powers from the wellspring of death.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. But yes, so
But freaking
Sabine stumbles
Ezra.
upon these turtle people. And they go to their little trailer park.
Yeah, their actual trailer park. Yes.
And then as Sabine turns around and there stands an aged Ezra Bridger,
Also,
played by Imanis Fondi, and nailed it.
Nailed it. He's perfect. Yeah, he's literally perfect.
It.
It also made me realize that they need to do a live action version of what's it called? Oh Jesus! Hush now, my baby.
Oh, Prince of Egypt with Imanis
Yes.
Fondi.
They absolutely need to.
Yeah,
do.
I hope he can sing because
Yeah,
that would be
I don't care.
That would be legit.
Get that boy into some fucking voice lessons and make him play Moses.
I bet he can. But
he probably could. He's a
but
talented guy.
yeah, no, he opens his mouth and
He's
forget how he
perfect.
forget how he looks. Well, he looks exactly like him, but or as much as you could bring that character to life, and he opens his mouth. It's like, yeah, that's Ezra.
Yeah, it's so sweet. And they start with their cute little, like, banter as if, like, they just
he's
kind
like-
of haven't seen each other for 9 years. Or I was like, hey, you,
The
what are you
plan
doing?
worked, didn't it? It did work,
Yeah.
didn't it? She's like, yeah, it did.
Sorta. Yeah,
But
dick.
yeah, I mean, like the joy of that moment with the swell of Ezra's theme, another brilliant Kevin Kiner
So great.
creation. He asks her, how did I have so many questions? How did you get here? And I go back to something, the way it was phrased, what Thrawn says to her. He said, "You have gambled the fate of your galaxy on the belief that your friend is still alive." And,
Yeah, whoa.
and that you have literally risked everything just to see this person. I want you to remember that. And
Well, and it's funny, too, because it perplexes him because, like, that is something that is so out of his vocabulary.
And
like,
he says
never,
that. He's like,
yeah, never would he ever.
she's like, you would never understand. He's like, perhaps not.
Yeah.
It's like, but maybe I don't understand because that was a stupid ass tactical move.
That
Because
was really
what
dumb.
you just did is, as you've given me the keys to go back and
Well, if you
fuck
go
up
back
your
to, like,
galaxy.
if you go back to people playing chess, I had the pleasure of watching one of my friends and actually like helping her a few times, but she was using, it was during the pandemic, so we were all doing Twitch and stuff, and she was learning. She's a YouTuber. She was trying to learn how to like play chess professionally, so she was like going up against these like professional chess players. And she did surprisingly well. I think that they were like training to do this like sort of celebrity match or whatever, and she got put up against oh god, what's his fucking name from The Office? Anyways, it doesn't matter. But through that process, like they discussed like when you're put up against like a professional chess player, like it kind of like it's so jarring for them to play with somebody that like doesn't know how to play and just like flagrantly moves their pieces on the board. It's just like, what? Why would you do that? That because then it like messes their brain up, like as if like, wait, maybe they know something that I don't, kind of thing. Because it was like because in chess you're taught to be so calculated that you know exactly what your opponent is gonna do, like you've already thought about all the different ways that they could move. You're like, okay, if they could do this, this, and this, and this, so I'm going to prepare for all of those scenarios. But then you can play with a person who's never played before, and they're just like, yeah, okay, I'm going to move my fucking pawn to there, and they're like, that I didn't know you were going to do, and that freaks me out. And I think that there's that little bit of whatever that extra special spice that Sabine has, kind of gives Thrawn pause, I think. Yes. In a interesting way. I don't know if he's like necessarily threatened by it, but like That I didn't expect. That's weird.
And I also think too, like, yeah. Speaking of chess, he's like, this might be the equivalent, him being a man of his word. He's like, I'm going to honor your agreement to Balin. It's like,
Right.
I'm going to give you supplies. I'm going to give you your weapons. You can go out there and go get them. That was Thrawn's way of giving up one of his pawns.
Yeah, totally.
Waiting for her to play a move, and now he's going to come in with his bishop and diagonal her ass to death.
Correct.
And
it's it's a classic hag move, like it's what a witch would do.
Right.
Like, I'm going to
give you... Thrawn in his mind, and Balin's the same way, which is what makes them interesting villains, is like, in their mind, they get to keep their integrity.
Right.
Or keep their word at the very least. Like, my word is good.
Yeah, I did it.
I didn't say what would happen after that, but
you're welcome.
My word, I gave you my word.
Should have been more specific.
Right. I didn't say you guys could live happily ever after.
Yeah.
And
whoopsies.
But so great to see Ezra and Sabine, and I cannot wait for her to Phil. I mean, like he has no reference for anything that has happened. Guys, he's in a different galaxy where no one until now has had any way of getting there. Like he has no communication. Like he knows nothing about how the Empire came down. Are all his friends still alive? And then most pressing,
Thrawn has been communicating, but I'm curious as if there's been any back and forth between the witches or not, or if it's just been like a sort of a one-way.
I think it's been like a one-way thing. Like
so even Thrawn's gonna get the skinny on what the fuck has been happening this whole time.
Although interestingly though, I mean maybe because think about in Mandalorian season 3 when you have that council of Imperial warlords and
yes, right.
Thrawn's former vice admiral Palion is in there, and he keeps saying Thrawn is coming back.
Yeah, Thrawn's coming.
Now, I that can be read like I know Gideon kind of smirks at him and is like, "Where is he? You keep saying
then where the fuck is he? Show me the money."
So I wonder if for Palion it's not like literally I've been getting message. I think it's more like the hope that like a brilliant guy like that, he's not dead. You didn't show me a body, like.
Yeah, show me the body. Well, and it's possible that he's also just been in touch with with Elsbeth,
Morgan, maybe.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I'm getting these messages from."
Yeah, because the Empire has this expectation at the moment that he's coming back at some point. So, but maybe that's just misplaced faith. But yeah, Ezra. To go back to my point, Ezra knows nothing, and then more pressingly, Sabine's going to tell Ezra, well, I basically undid your sacrifice to come get you.
Yeah, imagine for a second that this episode came directly after the last episode of Rebels.
Sabine effed up.
Yeah, because that moment was so meaningful, and then like having it to be completely reversed is like what the hell? It was like the greatest sacrifice that this character could ever make.
Well,
and, yeah.
As a practical matter, and to keep it with the chess metaphor, as a chess move, she screwed up big time. She doesn't know it yet, but she kind of does. She does absolutely know it. But I thought when Ahsoka was kind of lamenting about Sabine's choice, she makes the comment, it was Sabine's destiny to go with them. Yeah. Like the Force doesn't make mistakes, and
certainly
Ahsoka has to kind of come to grips with that real time. That's a great thing. I told her not to do it, and she made the impulsive, emotional move, which is just a big no-no. But at the same time, I think she was supposed to do that.
Yeah, and having that wherewithal to let go, and know that things happen and they're meant to be, and there's some things you can control and some things you can't, and that there's power in that. So I think that's part of her journey to living now.
Well, and I think about, I don't know, to keep it in the big franchise umbrella, I think about like what Captain America said when they're hunting Infinity Stones. Or it was really right at the beginning of Endgame, and he says, we don't trade lives. Yeah, like one life is worth all of that. Like,
Yes.
I'm not going to sit here and trade lot. Like,
And Ahsoka was ready to be like, well, Ezra,
no
it
Ezra,
really,
but no Thrawn. So we're
yeah,
all better
at least we
off.
don't have Thrawn. So yeah, Oh man, it was these 2 episodes were I just can't. I mean, the next one is is the next one the penultimate? Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
The next one is the penultimate. Our favorite word. We. I just don't know where they're going or how it's going to end. I'm fucking thrilled. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be along for the ride, to be honest. What
Me
a
too.
spectacular show.
I don't, we've already been talking for almost 2 hours.
We have to call it.
We have to call it. But do you have any final thoughts?
I would say, because I've been just pouring positivity on the show, all deserved.
Oh, now you're going to be like, fuck this show.
Fuck this show. No, it has become more apparent that if you have not previously watched Rebels, you're going, what the hell is going on? And that is a problem if you're trying to play to a bigger
I really want to hear from you guys too. Like if there's somebody out there that's listening to this that hasn't watched Rebels or Clone Wars, I want to know how this show has impacted you. Yeah.
It's not even does it make sense, because I think beat to beat, like it's easy
makes
to follow.
sense.
But
Totally.
there's
does it
no
resonate?
way it
does it
has
have an impact?
I mean, from the jump, it's kind of like, well, who's Ezra and who's Thrawn?
Right, and why should I care?
And why should I care? I mean,
Yeah.
now we kind of know why.
Why
you
should
care,
I worry?
That's my only complaint, and it's not a complaint because I watched Rebels, so.
Yeah, so
So.
This is for us, not for you.
yeah, it's fucking great. I can't wait. And we'll be here, and we'll do this all over again next week.
Yes, hopefully with Alyssa in tow.
God,
because I know she'll have a lot of thoughts as well that we'll get
my
to.
God, I know she's really bummed she couldn't be here today, but we'll make sure that she gets her.
She's
her
like Ezra
thoughts
out in
and
the
feelings
wilderness. Just she has no idea, but.
She's alone in the wilderness.
All right, Daniel.
That's it.
Well, that was action packed, and thank you for if you made it to the hour 40, almost 47 mark.
Bless you for it.
God bless you. Go for a walk, touch some grass. Or maybe
Definitely,
you've been doing
please.
that while you're listening to this, which is even better.
It's a nice way to do it.
You got a nice long workout in.
It's good.
Listening
Good
to our
for you.
dulcet tones.
I'm proud of you.
But as always, this is Inside the Tauntaun, a podcast in the multiverse of fandom. I'm Dino Nicandros.
And I'm Daniel Dawson.
May the force be with you always.
Inside the Tauntaun podcast, please like and subscribe.